Allah, someone who was very close to Allah. Luqman told his son, he said, "O my son, work for this world and also work for the akhirah. But give this world the time that it deserves and give akhirah the time proportionate to what it deserves." Now let's have a look at our lives. We will be alive to say life expectancy of 75 years, maybe even 85 years. You will spend more time in the barzakh, in that small 6 foot by 3 foot plot of land than you are alive now. And then after you come out of the grave, after the barzakh, when you go into the akhirah, you will spend eternity there. But why is it that we will spend most time on duniya? Secondary to that, we'll spend time on the grave. So, we'll do our funeral preparations and we'll know where we're going to be buried and who's going to turn up for our funeral and people we've been fighting with who won't be turning up to our funeral. And then we'll spend least time on the akhirah. We have done the opposite of what Luqman was telling his son to do. If we were to follow the advice of Luqman, we would spend most of our time for the akhirah, then secondary to that would be for the barzakh, the grave, and then thirdly it would be for the dunya. But by falling into Iblis's trap, the same way that he deceived our grandfather Adam, we are forgetting about the akhirah, we are forgetting about the barzakh, and just focused on what is going to happen within that very, very small period of time that we are going to be alive. Imam Ghazali quotes the hadith from Rasulullah. He said, "Work for this world or the worldly life as much as you live in it, and work for the life hereafter as much as you want to live there, and work for Allah the Exalted as much as you are in need of Him, and work for the hell as much as you can be patient with its pain and suffering." This hadith is very consistent with the advice of Luqman, which is, no one is telling you to abandon the dunya. No one's telling you to live in a case of poverty and in a case of impoverishment, away from any kind of worldly good. Islam encourages us to work and have a comfortable life in the dunya. Allah Ta'ala says in Quran, قُلْ مَنْ حَرَّمَ زِينَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي أَخْرَجَ لِعِبَادِهِ وَالطَّيِّبَاتِ مِنَ الرِّزْقِ قُلْ هِيَ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا خَالِصَةً يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ كَذَلِكَ نُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمٍ يَعْلَمُونَ. It says, say, and it's addressed to Rasulullah, say, O Rasulullah, who has forbidden the adoration with clothes given by Allah Ta'ala, which He has produced for His slaves, and all kinds of halal things and food? Say, these are things in the life of this world for those who believe, and exclusively for them who believe, and on the Day of Judgment. Thus we explain the ayah in detail for those people who have knowledge. What Allah Ta'ala is saying in this ayah, and the tafsir of Imam Ibn Khatib mentions this as well, is that Allah has created these things in the dunya, and Allah Ta'ala is telling us to engage in good food and good clothes, and even it is the sunnah to be able to wear the best clothes on the day of Eid and the best clothes on the day of Jummah, when you go to the masjid, to be able to adorn yourself and look beautiful for Allah Ta'ala. Even in fact it is mentioned about the greatest of the classical scholars, Imam Abu Hanifa, that Imam Abu Hanifa was a wealthy man. He was someone that would trade within clothing, and there is a narration by Nasr bin Muhammad that he once gave his clothing, which was of only 5 dinars, to Imam Abu Hanifa, and Imam Abu Hanifa gave it back to him, and he complained. He said, your clothes they're very cheap. They weren't to his quality standards. And Nasr bin Muhammad narrates that the next day he saw Imam Abu Hanifa. He said he was wearing clothes which were for 30 dinar. And there's many different narrations which will talk about this. One of Imam Abu Hanifa's students, Abu Muti al-Balkhi, mentioned that on one occasion he found Imam Abu Hanifa dressed in a shirt and mantle which have cost no less than 400 dirhams. Now if you can imagine that at 5 dinars you've got this Nasr bin Muhammad's clothing, Imam Abu Hanifa is wearing something for 400 dirhams. In one hadith, Rasulullah mentioned ad-dunya sijn al-mu'min wa jannat al-kuffar. He said that the dunya is like a prison for a believer, but yet it is paradise for the disbeliever. And many people have misinterpreted this to say, well, what that means in the dunya is that we abandon it and we don't engage in anything and we live in a state of poverty, and then in akhirah Allah Ta'ala will give us Jannah. Well, that's a misunderstanding of this hadith. What this hadith is saying is that the Muslim's heart should be placed firmly within the akhirah. Everything should be working for the akhirah. And relative to the akhirah, this dunya will be like a prison. But for the disbeliever, relative to what he is going to get in Jahannam, this world is like a paradise for him. And there's a famous story of a Jew who came up to an Islamic scholar, one of the classical scholars, and said, "Oh, you've got a very lovely cape on. Can I have it?" And the Sheikh said, "No, go and buy your own." And the Jew quoted this hadith. He said, "Ad-dunya sijn al-mu'min wa jannat al-kuffar." And the classical scholar said, "No, what this means is, in the relative to the akhirah, this dunya is a paradise for you, and relative to the akhirah, this dunya is a prison, a sijn for the mu'mineen." Rasulullah said in another hadith, "If your main concern is dunya, Allah will not give you peace of mind. Allah will put poverty between your eyes, and you will only get what is destined for you. However, if you make your concern the akhirah, Allah will give you peace of mind and content in your heart, and the dunya will follow you." Now, this is quite a powerful and eye-opening hadith. Let's have a look at what this hadith actually means in real life. It is saying that if your main concern is dunya, Allah will not give you peace of mind. What Allah will give you is, He will give you this hunger, He will give you greed. You will be impoverished with greed, and it will always tell you that you need more and more and more. And no matter how much you will have, it will never be sufficient for you, and you will continue to think that you are someone who is poor and needs more and more money. The reason for this is that the dunya is contaminated. You see, in the dunya, people will pursue lots and lots of different things. A lot of people in this day and age that we live in now, where the dollar or the pound or the rupee is valued more than anything else, people will pursue this at the expense of all of the things. But no matter how much they've got of this, it will bring them torment, it will bring them torture, it will bring them humiliation, it will bring them unhappiness, so much that they need it more and more. It becomes like this drug that the more they get, the more that they'll need for this. And you can see this in many different examples. There was the example of Mukhtar Mohideen, who was a Muslim who in the UK back in 1994 played the national lottery. He won the largest at that particular time, which was 18 million on the national lottery. He lost his wife, he lost his children, he lost his friends. He was involved in so many disputes with his family and relatives that were all trying to get a piece of it. So much so that Mukhtar's oldest brother, he said in a newspaper article that this national lottery is a terrible thing to happen in your family. It causes nothing but trouble. And he just won 18 million pounds. The answer is based in exactly in this hadith, which is saying that the person who makes the dunya his abode will find that it is contaminated and brings him misery. We can see so many other examples of this. Another example is the Patak family of the UK. These guys it was a true rags to riches story, where a guy the Kirit Patak came from India with nothing but £5 in his pocket. he started